Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. It's me and Sashwath. Yesterday was a very sad day for all of us. One of our icons of Indian industry, Ratan Tata, passed away. He was ill for a short period of time. He went to the hospital. He did a message from the hospital saying not to worry, that he will be out and about soon, and not to believe the rumors. But then the last 2 days, things got deteriorated very fast, and he finally passed away. And to talk about his legacy, I thought I'll have Shashwat to discuss this. And without wasting any further time, Shashwat.
Ratan Tata, as we all know, is a visionary and a pioneer. He's someone who might have aged by the number, but he didn't age mentally in the sense that I don't mean to say that he didn't grow up, but I'm trying to say that his youthfulness had always remained in him. And if you look at any of his interviews or if you look at any of his articles which were written after someone had interviewed him, the comments he makes screams that there's a sense of freshness and vitality in him. And if you look at the way he ran his businesses, he was never afraid of taking a risk. He was always open to doing the things which others would not think of, but at the same time, he wasn't cavalier about what he wanted to do, in the sense that he would think things through and only do things once he's thought them through, but he wouldn't be afraid of taking the step to do what he needed to do. So you could really see that he had an advantage which almost no other business people have. And the only other people I can think of who fall into this category are Warren Buffett and the late Charlie Munger, who had a sense of humor and spryness, which still indicated that they had a sense of youthfulness to them, that they hadn't become, let's say, antiquated. So Ratan Tata, even in his the way he ran his business, you could see that he was someone who didn't shy away from taking risks. So most business heads either fall into the category of too risk taking or not risk taking enough. And like Howard Marks said, there's always the risk of taking too little risk. So if you look at Ratan Tata, he has taken multiple risks during his career, some of which paid off, some of which didn't. But there's always a logical reasoning behind what he did, and there's always a fail safe in case his plan didn't go through. Then would the company still survive? How big of a loss would it be? How big of a hit to the company would it be? I know a lot of us might be thinking that Tata Steel and Tata Motors were the two big failures of Ratan Tata because of the acquisitions he had done and the long time stagnation of the share price of both these companies. But I would like to think differently about it. Today we criticize Chorus, his acquisition of Chorus, because we have seen that it didn't pan out in the way Ratan Tata wanted it to pan out. But I want you to consider the counterfactual. There could have been a good situation where the Chorus acquisition would have panned out in the way Ratan Tata did. Yes, it took a few years for Tata Steel to get back to where it was, but it did get back to where it was. And all it needed was one positive cycle in terms of the commodities sector. So if you look at Tata Steel, that's the nature of cyclical businesses. Sometimes the cycle is extremely long, where you have a huge period of lull before you get that boom where you can make some money and pay off the debt. So what I want to point out here is that even though Chorus was taken on under the Tata wings with an excessive amount of debt, it was a planned risk which Ratan Tata decided to take. And he is someone who always makes sure that he cleans up any mess he makes, and he did clean up the mess he made in Tata Steel. Uh, I mean, the jury is still out on whether that decision was a good decision or not. I'm sure that if things were to pan out differently and that the steel boom cycles were shorter, we could have seen a different outcome. And secondly, the thing which I want to talk about is Tata Motors. A lot of us remember Tata Nano, and I have a cousin who's very fond of this car, and it's something which is a mainstay in this family. But when we talk about Tata Nano, a lot of us think of a failure, that Ratan Tata was not able to push this car which he was really passionate about. But again, I would say look at the counter of this argument. I think Ratan Tata was a trailblazer because he brought out a car which was supposed to be an affordable car, which is supposed to target people who couldn't buy a standard car but wanted to buy something better than a scooter. And this was a revolutionary idea which Ratan Tata was experimenting with. And for those of you living in Europe, I'm sure that you might have seen these small two-person cars, one-person cars, because it's very expensive buying and maintaining a car over here. So what Ratan Tata did was trying to bring this affordable aspect in India where he was looking for the bottom line of the consumer. This is something which business heads don't do. And this is very interesting to see, and it's a case study, and there have been many research papers written on how Ratan Tata came up with the Tata Nano. So I wouldn't consider it a failure because it's a cultural icon in India. He experimented with something. It's just that the implementation was lagging behind what his ideas were. And it didn't catch on in the way he wanted it to catch on. Well, that's the Tata Nano. Let's look at some of the successes of Ratan Tata where the bets panned out as good as he expected it to or better than he expected it to. I'm sure when we drink tea, a lot of us remember Tetley. Tetley is a tea brand which Ratan Tata was at the helm of the Tata group when Tetley was acquired. So Tetley tea is something we all fondly recall. It's a wonderful company. You know, when we think of having tea, we usually either have Tetley or a few other brands. And this is another big success for Ratan Tata. And what people at home need to understand is that unlike JRD, who was there at the helm of Tata's during its heyday with Tata Aviations or Tata Locomotives, what you need to understand is that Ratan Tata had a different job. He didn't have a job of creating new things. He had the job of consolidating all these brilliant ventures which JRD came up with and bringing it under one umbrella and making sure no one executive had too much power. And he did this brilliantly. If today the Tata group is surviving and standing where it is, it's because Ratan Tata had consolidated the Tata group into what it is with painstaking struggle. Because a lot of you might remember that a few decades ago, well before I was born, Ratan Tata had a problem with many of his executives in these spin off Tata companies doing their own thing and being distrustful of Ratan Tata. And this was something which is obviously not desirable. You want the Tata, the big advantage of being a Tata group is that these companies have synergy. If let's say you're working at TCS, I'm sure a lot of you are aware that Tata Chemicals gets subsidized rates at TCS. And I'm sure that you're aware that Tata Motors provides cars to, at a subsidized rate to people in TCS and, it's ancillary companies. So there's this synergy benefit of being the Tata group. And if your heads are not, if your business heads aren't in the same wavelength, then you basically have a group that's dysfunctional. And that's not advantageous to anyone. So you have Ratan Tata, who came in and consolidated everything because JRD had a lot of goodwill with his business executives. But Ratan Tata was a newcomer, and a lot of them were acting up and acted distrustful of Ratan Tata. But Ratan Tata instituted a few policies, especially one where it's mandatory retirement after a certain age. So the oldies couldn't stay back and keep pushing Ratan Tata around. So that's another important and understated point about Ratan Tata's job. His job was not, as I restate, to build something amazing or something new. It was to take all these amazing little gems which the Tata group had and consolidating them into the same war chest and making sure that the company was to be where it could be. And if you look at the massive success of TCS, yes, I'm sure it couldn't all be credited to Ratan Tata, but he did have a big role to play in making sure that the company is as successful as it is today, just in the way that it's managed and in the way that it's the operational efficiency is concerned. TCS is where it's today because of Ratan Tata, and it's one of the crown jewels of the Tata group. So in these respects, I think that Ratan Tata is unparalleled. And if you look at his investments, Ratan Tata embraced the venture capital / seed capital nature of business, which was growing and unfolding when he was at the end of his career. And there's even an interview where he says that I only regret that I was not 20 years younger back in 2011. So in 2011, he said, I'm only sorry that I'm not 20 years younger because India is going through a very interesting period right now. He is someone who is an architect by training. So he was in the US, he was an architect by training. He came back because of his grandmother's health, and he took charge of the Tata Group, and he worked with JRD extensively. And he had seen venture capital unfold in the US before, and he was excited to see it happen in India as well. And he's always had the dream of pushing, small businesses in India. I'm sure that a lot of you might remember that he had invested in multiple small companies in Bombay and other parts of India as well. Especially, I think he bought a stake in Ola Cabs as well when Ola was a small company. Ratan Tata was one of the founding, funders of Ola Cabs, if I'm not wrong. And I think there's another company, Bombay Shave Club, or I forget the name. But basically, that was another company which Ratan Tata had put some money into. So, what we are to take away from this is that Ratan Tata is a man of many talents. He is a man who, although grew older in age, didn't grow bitter. He was a man who still retained his youthfulness. If you look at his interviews, he's a man who is able to joke around, have a good sense of humor. He's a gentleman, and he is a model for what people can do for their own country. Because Ratan Tata was someone who always looked at the bottom line of the average Indian consumer, and he knew that as an industrialist, his role to play was to make sure that he was doing the best for his people in terms of the products and services he was providing. And I did not mention his philanthropy because you just need to take a look at any article, any website, which will tell you the millions and millions of dollars he has poured into philanthropy during his time. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Ratan Tata, and he will be dearly missed.
Nice. I think Shashwat has summed it up very nicely, not leaving me anything left on the table but a few crumbs. So those few crumbs which I wanted to add was from the perspective of as an investor. What you had an advantage with Ratan Tata was he offered you a seat on the table when you're a small investor. Because of his principles and his ethics and his transparency, you were assured whatever he said would happen and you could bank on his word. You may agree with it or not is another thing. But if you wanted to follow along, at least you knew that wherever he said he's taking you, he was definitely taking you there. And there was no dubious nature in any of his transactions. So as an investor, it was worth its weight in gold. Because currently in India, it's very hard to find leadership like that in any of our companies, where you can take the leadership verbatim at their word and say, okay, if they're saying this, we can trust this. And we're going to follow, he's going to follow through with this. So that was something very rare and it's going to be sorely missed as an investor. And another thing which he did as to take care of investors was he made sure the transition in all the companies which they're under the Tata umbrella have been smooth. Case in point, he's passed away today and there's no jitters in the market. Tata companies are not collapsing and disappearing. It's not like it's a vacuum and people are wondering, investors are wondering what's going to happen now. We're not in that stage. He's made sure everything is being built in, transition has been built in, and the values he holds so dear to him, he's made sure those values are instilled in the future leaders and the future runners of these companies. And you feel he's passed on the baton so well. As an investor, you feel anything but encouraged to continue being invested in these companies which he has built. And you have a sense of calm. Yes, we are sad. We are terribly sad at the loss. But at the same time, there's also a prevailing sense of calm. And there's no disruption in this. Even Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway, we're still left wondering what's going to happen. Because he is trying to do this. He is trying to pass on and build a form of stability. But it's not as apparent as it is in the case of Ratan Tata. There is no confusion here. And the way it's being run is remarkably well. And case in point was what happened with Cyrus Mistry a few years back when he did hand it over. And when he realized it wasn't going in the ethics and in the belief system he was brought up in, and being a 150-year-old company, their belief system looked like it was altering. It wasn't aligned with him. He quickly stepped in. People may argue this and that, but the reason why he stepped in was very clear. He wanted to align it with the history of what the family was, and he ensured that. And he ensured when he brought Chandra in that it was staying in the same course which it was set way back during the days of Jamshedji. So he was a remarkable man. As an investor, it is sad to see that we find these kind of leaders very few in India right now. It would be nice to see a few more Ratan Tata sitting on corporate boards and in running these companies. Let's hope for this.
Yes, there has been no one like him, maybe apart from JRD and the Tata line. Of course, the Tatas are, something which can't be emulated, but we can all strive to be, at least 10% of what the Tatas were. And a lot of us don't have reason to look fondly upon, business owners and industrialists, but the Tatas were one of the few who you could look fondly upon, and he was almost unanimously liked as a figure in India. And he's going to be missed a lot. And as an investor, the Tata guarantee, like my uncle had said, is worth its weight in gold. And I would even say is worth its weight in something that's more precious than gold. So because you would have made more money on TCS if you had held it for a few decades than you would have if you had held gold. So that's the point I'm trying to make. And yeah, this is something which is going to be, it's just a huge loss to the investing community. It's equivalent to someone like Charlie Munger passing away. So yeah.
Correct. Yes. Well said, Shashwat. So anyway, that was just something off our usual program today because it was earth-shattering news, and we thought we could remember him here today and take a moment to pause in the middle of all our investments and whatever we are doing right now. We take a moment to remember him, and I think it's worth it. Tomorrow we will be back talking about Hyundai IPO. So do tune in then if you want to hear about Shashwat's take on the Hyundai IPO, and if you should be looking at the Hyundai IPO at all compared to all the other foreign companies which have set up here and they've launched their IPOs. Shashwat will do some compare and contrast on this, and if you should be looking at the Hyundai IPO and celebrating. That said, do like this channel, do subscribe to it, do share it with friends and family, whomsoever you might think will enjoy this kind of content. Me and Shashwat are happy that you joined us today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back to Be Rich. Before we get into the video, I wanted to bring to your notice that my uncles Vinod Srinivasan, Anand Srinivasan and I have rolled out our Substack, which is basically a blog/newsletter where we're going to post our original research onto it. And we've analyzed macroeconomic trends. And a lot of you know my uncle Anand Srinivasan and I regularly write for The Hindu. And these articles are also going to be made available for you in the Substack. The link is moatinvesting.substack.com. You'll find it in the description and in the video right now. We hope you go check it out. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. And please give us comments and feedback on what you read. Thank you.
It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.